Jungle.
In the morning package, House of Assembly commences budgets defined by ministries, departments and agencies of governments. Governor Dom Emmanuel seeks to sustain cordial relations with judiciary. Lassa fever, Akwa State government sets up 50-man response team as state records fatality. And federal government ends subsidy on kerosene, raises pump price to 83 naira per litre. Details of this and more in a moment. It's a beautiful morning. Welcome to KFC 45 AM News. My name is Agnes Udo King Brown. Governor Dom Emmanuel has again acknowledged the cordial relationship existing between the executive arm of government and the judiciary. Mr. Dom Emmanuel acknowledged the cordial relations at a Thanksgiving service in honor of the State Chief Judge, Justice Stephen Okun, held at the Assemblies of God, Nigeria, Akaitam Road, Uyo. Government Housebearer Chief Colonel Edemefreti was there for the following reports.
Governor Dom Emmanuel said the cooperation given him by the Chief Judge is worthy of commendation as it has aided the smooth running of his government. Mr. Dom Emmanuel expressed appreciation to God for the life of Justice Okun, especially for his testified touch by God in 1992, as well as his elevation through the ranks to the position of Chief Judge. The governor described as divine arrangement that he had to swear in the man who officiated at his swearing in as the governor, describing it as an indication that God had plans of using them for the good of the state. He congratulated the Chief Judge and wished him successful tenure.
I thank you for your life too and your family. It's not everybody that had that chance to come on to that point. So we can only say God bless you and your family. I thank you for the cooperation you've given unto us. So I'm sure God, who has called all of us into his service for the common good of our State, will make all of us a vessel unto honor in Jesus' name.
The State Chief Judge, Justice Stephen Okun, said that the service was organized to thank God not just for his appointment as the Chief Judge, but for God's benevolence in his life generally. Justice Okun recounted the moments of God's intervention in his life to include receiving Christ in 1992, being called to bar at the age of 26, being appointed a judge in 1998, as well as his swearing in as the State Chief Judge in 2016.
I was appointed a judge, I got that mistake. And I had the privilege of being sworn in by 3 governors. Group Captain John William, sworn in as judge. His Excellency Chief Dr. Governor Babi CLN, sworn in as acting Chief Judge. And on the 22nd of August, as the substantive Chief Judge of Babi State. What else can I ask of God? This God has been so good to us.
In his sermon, the Secretary General of the Assemblies of God, Reverend Godwin Amawo, said God is always with those he has called into his service, adding that though they pass through temptations, he always blesses them with victory. Reverend Amawo prophesied that Justice Okun will not see sorrows as the Chief Judge and assured of a successful tenure.
God shall raise up to be a blessing to this day. God will not quench the light of Israel. Nobody shall quench the light of our Bible in the judicial and everywhere. conclude the shackles not to the end in the name of Jesus Christ.
The Thanksgiving service featured prayers for the Chief Judge, even as the congregation joined him and his wife in a dance of gratitude to God. Colonel Adam Efreti reporting.
Have the 10 MDAs slated to appear before the House of Assembly Committee on Appropriation and Finance to defend their 2016 budget proposals. On Monday, 6 appeared while 4, Minister of Works, Minister of Transport, Minister of Youth and Sports, as well as the State Universal Basic Education Board, failed to put up appearance. Those who appeared were the Minister of Economic Development, Minister of Investment, Commerce and Industry, Minister of Environment, State Secondary Education Board, and the State Technical Education Board. Assembly Chief Chris Nka reports.
Stating the focus of the exercise, the chairman of the House Committee on Appropriation and Finance, Mr. Usoro Akpanuso, told the different ministries that the committee wants them and all of the other parastatals of government to be revenue generators as against expenditure outlets.
The revenue, how you intend to bring money to fund your budget, and you justify why it should not be cut down further, because depending on what you tell us, the revenue you are going to generate to fund the budget, we can now take a decision on whether to allow it the way it is or to further drop it.
The Commissioner for Economic Planning, Dr. Emmanuel Uwodioke, who spoke on behalf of his ministry, said in 2016 the government hopes engage the Anchor Insurance Company Limited, owned 63% by Akwa Ibom State, to make better yields.
Well, if you have 63% shares in a company, it means you have the controlling shares. If the government only sold off some percentage, call it 37% to the private investors. So the government retains 63%. Therefore, the government of Akwa Ibom State owns Anchor Insurance Company.
The Commissioner for Investments, Commerce and Industry, Mr. Emmanuel Noidem, said the ministry did not do well in 2015, but expects this degree of performance this year to be higher. Of the things he expects to achieve, he mentioned the Baka Deep Sea Port, creation of industrial estates in Uyo, Eket and Ikorekmana, as well as industrial clusters to take care of whatever products communities produce. Mr. Noidem also mentioned the creation of the Ibom Enterprise Development Scheme and the establishment of 3 regional markets in Uyo, Eket and Ikorekmana.
Budget making is a process between the government as executive and the government as legislature. So it is within their province. Whatever the House of Assembly will want to do on the budget is within their power. So I won't be able to speculate what will happen if they reduce the budget or what will happen if they increase the budget.
On his part, the Commissioner for Finance, Mr. Karokon, said the ministry is to carry out an investigation audit, find out what happened to the funds injected into the Akwa Savings and Loans Limited by the government. He also said that the government has hired a revenue consultant to improve the revenue yields of the state, while staff of the Internal Revenue Service are to work towards improving their targets. When Mr. Akpan Solomon Akpan, Permanent Secretary in the Secondary Education Board, took his seat, he told the legislators that from a budget of 470 million naira, which he could not draw down in 2015, the board has reduced these years to only 188.095 million naira. So, how did he cope with free education and the expected materials needed to make the policy work? The chairman of the House Committee on Appropriation and Finance, Mr. Akpanuso, came to his rescue.
That is why we are interested in this very reform. We will ask government to come to it.
The Commissioner for Environment and Mineral Resources, Dr. Inyobong Essien, said with a proposal of 4.12 billion naira, the ministry hopes to establish a petroleum depot in Uyo, improve on the drainage systems and the management of wastes, create parks and open spaces, as well as decorate the streets and public places during next Christmas with 100 million naira worth of Christmas lightings. The State Technical Schools Board, which was represented by Mrs. Justina Ita, said the proposed 955 million naira in 2015 and drew blank. Chris Nkang reporting.
The state government has constituted a 50-member Lassa fever response committee to prevent and control the spread of Lassa fever in Akwa Ibom. The task force was inaugurated yesterday by the Commissioner for Health, Dr. Dominic Ukpong, with a charge to members to explore avenues that will help the ministry succeed in containing the Lassa fever disease from claiming many lives. Udoikon has the details.
Inaugurating the 50-member task force, the Commissioner for Health, Dr. Dominic Ukpong, described Lassa fever as an emergency that has already claimed a life in Akwa Ibom, with 2 unconfirmed suspected cases isolated. He said with the death of the confirmed case of Lassa fever, there was the urgent need to constitute the task force of different subcommittees to work towards identifying possible cases for isolation and treatment. The Commissioner said that 212 cases of Lassa fever have so far been recorded in Nigeria, with 76 deaths occurring in 19 states.
The main thrust of today's meeting will be to inaugurate a task force in our state and also keep contact references for people you need to reach should you have cause to seek help. We've had 3 suspected cases. 1 has been confirmed, and that one unfortunately has died. Tells you how serious this is. This is why we must pay attention to this illness.
Describing Lassa fever as a killer disease that is better prevented than cured, Dr. Dominic Ukpong advised Akwa Ibom people to maintain good personal and environmental hygiene, together with other tips to prevent the disease, which is distributed by rats.
It is, however, suspected that the urine of the rats, when dried and is isolated, can actually affect some people. So we need to be very close to the rats' droplets. That is the problem. Avoid drinking soap, organic soap in cold water. This is very important. We will try talking on behalf of government to see that at least you have running water so as to wash your hands always. The practice of having a bowl of water that you wash your hands 3 or 4 times or 4 times especially before you change is not right. You can still have infection.
During the emergency meeting, which was attended by directors in the State Ministry of Health, medical superintendents, matrons, pharmacists and other health workers, issues on control measures were raised. Also discussed were measures to be deployed to protect healthcare workers from the Lassa virus.
We have addressed the knowledge gap significantly at this point. It is left for us really now to be able to ensure that we address the infrastructural and commodities gap at the different facilities.
Members of the Enlarged Response Committee are drawn from different segments, including the Ministries of Health, Women Affairs, Agriculture, Environment, Youth and Sports, Education, Information, and the Hospitals Management Board. Other members include representatives of the Nigerian Medical Association, the Nigeria Union of Journalists, the National Orientation Agency, Akwa Ibom Broadcasting Corporation, as well as military and paramilitary organizations. Utwakeko reporting.
The state government is to develop a database for graduate youths in the state to fast-track the employment opportunities. This was made known by the Commissioner for Information and Communications, Mr. Nneka Numana, at a meeting with youths in Abak. Mr. Numana said compiling such database was one of the ways the state government intends to curb unemployment among youths. He explained that information on the program will be publicized at churches and other public places. The Commissioner said already Governor Dum Emmanuel has initiated the Private Employment and Enterprise Scheme, ACES, and called on youths to avail themselves of the opportunity. Mr. Nneka Numana asked the youth to remain steadfast in their support for Governor Dum Emmanuel. More news after the break. Stay with us. You're welcome back. It has become a time-honored tradition of the Ministry of Transport to Conversion Church as a family every January for a Thanksgiving. This perhaps explains why the Commissioner, Dr. Godwin Tugude, led staff and transport stakeholders to the Heaven Light Assembly, Ikorianti, in Surubium local government area to start the year 2016 with God. Livingstone Daniel completes the story.
At the service, which had as its theme for the Lord rebuke a devourer and a wine yielded fruit, staff of the Ministry of Transport and transport sector workers sang and danced, while the ministry's choir rendered a piece. In his sermon, Dr. Godwin Tugude noted that lack of faith in the power of God to change situation on the part of some Christians has made God not to intervene in their situation, stressing that God works through one's faith and not as a magician. The clergyman took his text from Malachi chapter 3 verses 1 to 12, urged Christians to realize that no one is capable of helping himself or succeeding in a task except God intervenes in his side. Dr. Tugude reminded the transporter that God rebuked the devourer so that their vine could bear fruits.
Particularly all that are transporters, that the moment you embark on the plantation, the moment you step out on the journey, the Lord God Almighty sends an advance messenger. Who is this messenger? The angel of God.
Dr. Tugude, who later led the Ministry of Transport and its stakeholders on a Thanksgiving, said they were in the church to appreciate God for seeing him, his ministry and stakeholders through last year, despite challenges, and also hand over the ministry's activities to God and ask for his guidance and direction for 2016.
And we came because we have no doubt that there is God in this house, in this temple. Because the transporters have taken a new lead and turned around to trust God Almighty. Sorcerers are no more in the house. Politics practitioners are no more.
The Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Transport, Dr. Effiong Abia, and some stakeholders also took time to appreciate God for the preceding years and solicit God's blessing for this year.
We'll continue to glorify God that has kept us in and made it so possible that if the accident rate has gone down and we have not lost any life, that has made us mourn or feel sorrow.
Our self one will get 250. Our one, you know, in the receiver, and I'm new when if I be one of the leader or one of the members, our secretariat accident is zero reduced.
It is our testimony throughout 2015, throughout the transport in the transport sector. We never had it good as what we had to see.
The leader of Heaven Light Assembly, leader Ekong Edem, said thankfulness opened heaven for blessings, adding that with the thanksgiving, God is pleased and will do more for the Ministry of Transport this year. Livingstone Daniel reporting.
Over the weekend, the Sanctified Mount Zion Church, 25 Riviana Street, View, played host to friends, family and associates of Mr. Ndefreke Silvanus Akwan, who walked the aisle of the church with Miss M.M. Jacob Udom to say I do. And in turn with AKB's Benedict Etham, who witnessed the couple pleasure and dying love for each other, filed a story as presented in our studios.
Preaching at the solemnization, the officiating minister, Pastor Basi Etoridem, harped on the power of love in marriage as the panacea for a fruitful and peaceful home, advising them to bond despite life's challenges. Pastor Etoridem said love will enable them to accommodate and tolerate each other, while admonishing them to place God first in everything they do for their marriage to endure.
Increase the level of love in the family. Things will change for the better. But once you love your wife, love her unconditional.
Jesus Christ gave us unconditional love, saying you need to love your wife as Christ loved the church. Unconditional love is what is needed that can be a home. You need to give it in the home.
Miss Emen Jacob Udom and Mr. Ndifreke Sylvanus Akman later took the marital vows, exchanged rings, and signed the marriage register. To the admiration of their parents and guests, they later took to the dance floor. At a wedding feast held at the Niger Wives Park, Uyo, the chairman on the occasion said marriage is a God-ordained institution that must be entered into willingly, stressing that the couple should endeavor to live in peace and unity in order to overcome temptations that may arise. He charged the newlyweds to be each other's keeper if they must enjoy their union and wished them well.
Miss Rebe and Amy has agreed to live together as one. I will now employ the parents. There should not be any interference in whatsoever they are doing. But when they have a problem, they should go to God in prayer.
While friends proposed a toast, the couple later cut their wedding cake, fed each other, and exhibited their dancing prowess. On their impression about their day, the couple has this to say.
Here is celebration with us. Make this blessed and joyous one. May all glory be unto God in Jesus' name.
Tears flowed freely in Ikorokwediene in Ikona local government area as friends, relations, colleagues, and old boys of Methodist Boys High School converged on Gabriel Udofia's compound for the funeral of Udem Udofia. Age 53, the late Udem Udofia was until his death a librarian with the radio arm of the Akwa Ibom Broadcasting Corporation. At the funeral conducted by Christian Fellowship International, the officiating minister, Pastor Milrock, urged Christians to be mindful of what they do while alive, as doing evil will always lead to eternal doom.
For those who know Jesus, for those who know God, for those who know the Creator, there is no condemnation. Nobody can condemn you. Nobody can kill you. Nobody can destroy you. When you don't know Christ,
Born in 1963 to the family of Gabriel Esen Udofia of Nudom in Ikorokwediene, Ikona local government area, late Udem Udofia, according to his biography, was a man of outstanding morals and a gentle disposition. The late Udem was educated at prestigious Methodist Boys High School, Oron, and later obtained the highest school certificate from the Hope Wardle Training Institute, Calabar. He joined the services of the Akwa Ibom Broadcasting Corporation in 1994 and worked as a librarian with the radio arm until his death. Late Mr. Udem Udofia is said to have earlier worked with several outfits, including the Nigerian Airports Authority.
Just missed a friend. Was a true friend. It's most unfortunate that missed him. There's nothing we can do.
As a mark of abiding respect and honor to their deceased member, old boys of the Methodist Boys High School, Oron, rendered the school anthem, the Encore. Condolence messages were also presented by individuals and organizations, including the Akwa Ibom Broadcasting Corporation, Radio, Television, Theatre, and Art Workers Union, Ratal.
Udem was a good mixer, socializing without barriers. His simple and easygoing lifestyle would be greatly missed.
The late Udem Udofia is survived by a daughter, an aged mother, sisters, and other relations. The remains of the late Udemo Dofia were later buried at his home estate in Ikorokwediana, Ikono local government area. Now the soul of our colleague, rest in peace. Federal government officially ends subsidy regime on kerosene, increases price of products from 50 naira to 83 naira per litre. Mesekere tells us about these and other stories in a national news segment.
The federal government has officially removed subsidy on kerosene and has subsequently increased the price of the product from 50 naira per litre to 83 naira per litre. The Petroleum Products Pricing Regulatory Agency, PPPRA, said the 83 naira per litre only applied to the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, NNPC, as other marketers of the product can sell higher than the stipulated amount. A pricing template released by the PPPRA puts the expected open market price at 72 naira 28 kobo, while the federal government makes a gain of 10 naira 72 kobo for every litre of kerosene. The federal government has announced plans to launch a recovery and peace-building assessment program for the northeastern parts of the country ravaged by terrorism acts of the Boko Haram Islamist sect. The program will be implemented in conjunction with the World Bank, the European Union, and the United Nations, and will be aimed at rebuilding and rehabilitating of cities and people affected. The assessment efforts will provide credible framework for coordinated and coherent support from humanitarian and development partners to complement series of federal government efforts towards restoring normalcy to the affected states in Nigeria's northeast.
On a package this morning, a reminder they can also watch AKBC TV News online by logging on to akbconline.org or follow us on Twitter at AKBC45U or on Facebook at AKBC Channel 45. Before we go, we'll look at the major stories. The Akwa Ibom State House of Assembly yesterday commenced the phase of 2016 budget proposals by ministries, departments and agencies of government. Governor Dom Emmanuel has acknowledged the cordial relations between the executive arm of government and the judiciary. The governor bared his mind at Assemblies of God, Nigeria, at Kaitem Road at a Thanksgiving service in honor of the State Chief Judge, Justice Stephen Okun. We also brought a report that Akwa Ibom State government has set up a 50-man response team to contain Lassa fever following the death of a victim in the state. That is in our package this morning, and next bulletin comes up at noon. Until then, stay in Nigeria programs. My name is Agnes Odo.